Aidan, you've trained more Derby winners than anybody else in the history of the race. What is it about the Derby that makes it such a special race?
I suppose it's the ultimate test of the thoroughbred, really, Donn. It's the classic generation, and I think it's what the whole thoroughbred breed is based on. They have to be mature, they have to be quick, they have to stay. I think it's the ultimate test, and obviously Epsom is the first Derby and this part of the world, and it is the ultimate test. It's a very unique track, it's tough, it's enclosed, it's a lot of atmosphere, it's uphill, downhill, sideways, left. You have to stay, you have to have speed. I think it defines the whole thoroughbred breed, really.
And you mentioned atmosphere there. Is that part of it, that they have to be able to cope with, I suppose, the rigours of an Epsom Derby?
Yeah, I think so. And Epsom is an enclosed place, like I said, and you really feel the atmosphere. Everybody wants to be part of it and bit of it, and it can be a fairly hot place. It can be an intense place, and I think their temperament is tested ever before the race starts. And then it's unusual that they have to canter the whole length of the track to go to the start, and there's people screaming over the rails, and the track is not too wide, so they're right on top of you, so they're properly tested before they even get into the stalls, I think, really.
Are you happy with how your team has taken shape in general?
Yeah, we are. The horses have been running well in their trials, and they have been progressing from their first run to their second run, most of them. It will be interesting, will they progress again to their third run, because 3-year-olds need to keep progressing, especially this time of the year.
Nearly all the major trials have been run now, and you've pretty much won most of them. Like, how far out do you target a trial for a horse, or do you match the specific trial to suit the characteristics of the horse?
Yeah, I think so. We always try to get them ready in the spring. Obviously, we get work through the winter, have them ready hopefully to run the spring, and then if they're a maiden, they'll start in a maiden. If they're not, they'll start in a winner's race. It's always nice to get a run before a trial, but sometimes it doesn't happen, so really the trial can often be their first run. So it's depending on the horse, really, where they start and what they've done the year before. It's often not a disadvantage if they have experience and they start off a maiden. But listen, it's not always the way. Sometimes they go into a trial first time and they can improve a lot onto the big race. So it's all different, and I suppose the environment and the year and the climate and the horse and an awful lot of stuff can kind of contribute to where you are when you do start. So what has happened up to then, and then you just hope on the day that they're in a good place.
Yeah, and this year in particular, it seems to me that you've managed to get a run into most of them before the trial.
Yeah, we did. A lot of them were middle distance horses, but we started them short enough, and we gave them a chance of being a Guineas horse if they were a Guineas horse, and then we would have seen then maybe they want to go up to 1.25 miles, which we would have been expecting anyway, but it was nice to still get them started over a shorter distance and get a run into them.
If we can talk about some of the horses in particular, Stone Age, we started at the end, the most recent trial, the Leopardstown trial. He was very good, and he made pretty much all the running at Leopardstown.
Yeah, we were very happy with him. He did in his maiden as well this year. He didn't win last year, but he had a very high level of form as a 2-year-old. He ran in all Group 1s, and he even ran the Group 1 over 7 furlongs. So he was a very experienced horse. So it was good for him because he learnt all he needed to learn about racing last year. And when he didn't win, it probably worked out great because he was able to start in the maiden, and the first maiden that came 1.25 miles, he was going to be there for it, and then he could jump into a trial. So it all worked very well. I suppose Snowfall was a little bit like that last year. Didn't do much, ran a lot of races, travelled, got a lot of experience, and it really helped her when the spring came and into the start of the classics, really.
And on Stone Age, do you think he came forward from his maiden win?
Oh, we think he did. Yeah, but we thought that he would come forward more from Leopardstown.
Right.
He did come forward, obviously, from his maiden. What he did in his maiden, he was entitled to do because he was a very highly rated horse. But we felt he had improved, and we felt that he would improve again. We hadn't kind of really squeezed the lemon, if you know what I mean, for Leopardstown. But he had come forward, and we felt if he got through it and it all went well, more could come for his next run.
Yeah, it was pretty ominous if you think he's going to step forward again for Leopardstown.
Yeah, hopefully. Listen, obviously never sure, but we felt there could be more improvement.
Your 2 Chester winners Star of India winning the Dee Stakes, he showed a really good winning attitude.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he started in the Craven, I think, over a mile, and he looked like when he won his maiden last year that he was going to be a middle distance horse. He won his maiden over 7, but looked a middle distance horse. Looking at him, he was off of the bridle a long ways and came through well to win well. So, but we still started him in the Craven, which we thought was a nice place to start him, and he ran respectable, but looked like a horse was crying out to go up to 1.25 miles. And then he went to Chester and did that and looked like a horse that would get 1.5 miles. Whether he will on pedigree, I'm not sure, but it's very possible because he has a lovely, lazy way of racing and very genuine way of doing it.
And again, do you think he'll come forward from Chester?
We think he will. Yeah. And whether the 1.5 miles, will he get that or not, we'll have to run to see that, really.
Changing of the Guard then, he won the Chester Vase.
Yes, we were delighted with him as well. He just got beat by one of our own as a 2-year-old last year, I think, in Punchestown. And then he went into this year a maiden. It was a maiden in Dundalk, which suited lovely. It was 1.25 miles. Wayne rode him. We thought that he was going to get 1.5 miles well, so he won his maiden over 1.25 miles well, and we felt that he would really step up, and he did. Obviously he went to the Vase and got the trip really well. It looked like a horse that would even get further, but he's very uncomplicated. He's relaxed, lazy horse. You can fire him out and he'll make his own run, and we'll be very happy to take a lead either. But he does stay well, and he's like very uncomplicated, hardy, tough horse.
And him and Star of India, like obviously Chester, it's a tight turning track. Do you think that will help those two horses when they go to Epsom?
I think it would, yeah, absolutely. If we had a ran Star of India against Changing of the Guard, we would know now. But we didn't, so the two of them went to different trials. So maybe the two of them will have to line up together and find out. Like, we know the Changing of the Guard stays well and gets the trip. We know that the other horse has 1.25 miles class and looks like he will step up going 1.5 miles. But that'll be interesting. Like with Star of India chasing the like of Changing of the Guard, you really won't know what's going to happen there until they're going into the last furlong, and then you're going to see who's going to stay the best. But the two of them look like horses that should be very comfortable for their next runs.
Yeah, and I know on pedigree Star of India, it's not certain he'll get 1.5 miles, but definitely in the Dee Stakes over 10.5 furlongs, it looked like he would get it a little bit further than that at least.
Absolutely, and it can be deceiving sometimes. But if you weren't sure about his pedigree, you'd say definitely would get it. But it will be interesting, and he's very like his daddy. His head goes down when he's galloping; it goes out and down, and he's a big action like his dad too. So it will be interesting.
Yeah. And then United Nations, he went and won the Lingfield Derby.
Yeah, we knew that he would improve a lot from Epsom. He ran very well over 1.25 miles in a slowly run race. He was coming home very well. I think Ryan was kind of intended to make the run on him in Lingfield and find out, but he wasn't able to because there was a real strong gallop. So that was a tough trial. He got the trip real well. He had to fight in the straight all the way up the straight, and the favourite was chasing him, but was at his skirt but couldn't get by him, and he just kept pulling out. So he's another interesting one, really.
On the Oaks, you've won the Oaks 9 times. Is Tuesday, like her run in the Guineas was a really good run? Yeah,
Frankie got off 100 guineas and he said Irish guineas, going to get 1.25 miles and could even get further. She's not 3 until the second week of June. So
yeah, she was a very late foal.
Very incredibly. But you can see it in her all the time. When she won her maiden at Naas, we didn't think that she would make the Guineas or anything like it, but every week she came forward and forward. So her sister won the Oaks obviously after the Irish Guineas, so it's a very strong possibility that she'll go there after it.
And so that's a route that you've taken before, isn't it? On to the Irish Guineas and then on to Epsom.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose when those fillies are after having a few runs early, they don't mind backing up a little bit close, and for those classics they have to be fit and hard, really. And
our fillies, and this might be a too generalistic a question, but they seem to be able to go to the Guineas and then go on to the Derby, which is obviously it's another 0.5 mile, so it's 50% further than the Guineas, more so than the Colts, or is that?
I think the Colts will be able to do it as well, but I suppose we haven't done it. It depends on the horse and the type, mentally and physically, whether it would suit, and depends on what other horses are around at the time. I suppose there's a lot of set of circumstances make those type of things happen, really.
Yeah. And on that filly history at Leopardstown again, she kept on well.
She did, yeah. We weren't sure whether she was an Oaks filly or a Guineas filly, so that's why we started in Leopardstown. And Ryan was very convinced that Irish Guineas would suit her. Whether she'll get the 1.5 mile trip in the Oaks on pedigree, I'm not sure, but Galileo is usually a big influence for stamina, so they usually do stay.
And is that the plan with her then, to go on to the Curragh?
We're thinking of that. We'll go to the Curragh first, and then see after that, I think, rather than maybe going straight to Epsom.
Yeah. Concert Hall, she won the Salsable Stakes impressively, and that race is already working out well.
Yeah, that's right. It was it was a little bit slowly run, the Salsable Stakes, so we weren't sure. We'd have probably preferred a tougher, stronger run race. We would have known more about her. She travelled very well that way. Joseph Silly was in behind, and I knew watching that race didn't suit her, and she really stepped up when she got a strong gallop. So we're she's in the Irish Guineas mix at the moment. Whether she'll go there, I'm not sure. But she could go there on the way to Epsom, or could go straight to Epsom. But it's just very hard to miss a chance with a filly by going straight to Epsom and not give them a chance at a mile, if that's the way they're inclined, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it's
interesting, like to win a Salsable Stakes over 10 and a half furlongs, and then maybe drop back down and trip for Guineas.
Yeah, I don't think that matters too much.
Right.
If the pace wasn't too strong, like it wasn't a slog at Navan, it was a sprint. So it probably didn't ride like a mile and a quarter, if you know what I mean. I'd say it rode like a kind of 9 furlong type of race, and with not a strong pace, I would imagine.
Yeah, and she did show an awful lot of pace.
She did. She quickened up well, and she quickened, and then she waited when she got there. Ryan felt.
Yeah. And Thoughts of June, another of your
she's a filly that you wouldn't go a mile with her. She's a big filly, big open gallop and pure mile and a half filly. Big stride, very genuine. She's massive, improving all the time. We're looking at going to Epsom with her. She's so big we weren't even sure she'd get around Chester, but she did. She went around there, and she wasn't for stopping, you know. So like, we thought it was a big run out of her. We thought that she would come on a lot from her first run, which we think she did, and we thought that she would come on again from that. So Joseph Filly ran her very close, and going to the line, like, you wouldn't be sure what was going to happen. So they're two obviously good fillies, I'd say.
And do you think if and when they meet again, they'll the same result?
Well, I suppose we probably on form we improved a few lengths, but we might have got a little bit more run of the race because we were drawn a little bit. We got a good break and we were a little bit ahead of her. But I thought Shane gave his filly a brilliant ride. He did nothing wrong. He came after her in time, and Johan just kept fighting, you know. So it's going to be interesting when they do meet again.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about this stage of the season, isn't it? Like, we've had, obviously a lot of the trials have been run, but there's still so much more that can happen, and so much more potential there.
Oh yeah, and it's all opinions. Everyone has an opinion, and like, who knows who's right or who's wrong, and that's the fascinating part about watching trials. Like, we kind of try and have them as well as we can have them for the trials, and because of that, some of them might improve, some of them might go back. So it's all, and it's kind of depends on like where the whole thing lands, and whether a horse is in a good place, or whether they're getting better, or whether they're as fit as they can be. And but it's all opinion. You listen to the jockey, you look at the horse, and you look at the race, and like, who knows where the winners are going to come out. If they come out of trials that were maybe third or fourth in the trials, you don't know, you know. So it's just very interesting and exciting this time of the year. And
do you enjoy this time of year? Like, do you enjoy the kind of not knowing and letting them develop on the racetrack?
Yeah, I suppose we do, but like, obviously we like to know, and obviously to know is always a nice place to be, because you have an idea of the pattern you're going, or what way you're going. But listen, you don't always know, and that's just the way it is, and it's just takes a lot of time thinking about and working it out and talking to everybody, really.
So are you like really looking forward to Epsom to find out?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And that's where we find out. They go together, and we do find out, and we really look forward to that, absolutely.